started. Let's go.
All right, my name's Nate Manahan, and I am live here in Indianapolis, Indiana, and it's time for office hours. This week, it's the last thing for a lot of us. It's the end of our week. It's Friday afternoon, 4 p.m. Eastern, 2% Mountain Time, 1% Pacific. I don't know what time it is in Hawaii and Alaska, but I hope you're having a great Friday, and let me bring up the office hours experts. On the left-hand side, coming from Colorado, Glenwood Springs, Colorado, to be exact, Jenny Rickle. Jenny, I know that you're just returning from a vacation.
Yes.
Still a little regret coming back, a little hard coming back into the,
I have such a cool job that it really isn't hard to come back. When I came back on Wednesday morning, I called my coworker here in the office, Jason, and I just told her how excited I was. So I love it here, which I'm pretty grateful for.
That is good. And I know that you were spending some time. In fact, I regret that I haven't actually asked you more about what you did in Puerto Rico, but a little bit of different lifestyle for a week. And now you're back in the mountain goodness. Hopefully spring is, finally sprung. And Mr. Mike Stetzel, how are you, sir?
Yes, sir.
Warsaw, Indiana, 2 hours north of where I'm at. Mike, how is life treating you up there in Tigerland?
Good. I had a 3-day weekend last weekend. I actually slipped off to Florida to see some friends briefly, and 85 degrees there, 55 when I got here. So we're still springing it, trying to get it sprung. It's 60 today.
Man,
as you probably well know.
Yep.
We're not far apart.
Nope. It's a little warmer today, but I am glad it's, I guess the rain is coming all weekend down here. I don't know if it is up there. Sometimes it's amazing to me, the 2-hour difference, how much of a different weather we can have. But so that's how this wonderful world is created. So sometimes it works.
Yep.
Today, we're going to talk about specifically a little quick discussion. That's a really big discussion. What to happen when the impossible happens. There are lots of these little things. They really actually do happen to less than, 1% of our merchants. But when it's happening to your merchant, it's a crisis. And so we want to start. These are things like they're missing batches, or one transaction didn't make it into the batch, or maybe there are tip adjustments, or these little things that can kind of creak in. Maybe something, we saw one recently that I saw the ticket go by through that when the batch was happening, they had a power outage. And so only part of the batch went through, and then they had to force everything over and all the changes and things getting all that in. There's little weird things that can happen. Jenny, you're one of our experts because you actually did tier 2 support in the payments world. As a partner, hears this phone call, gets it from the merchant, and hears one of these crisis moments. What are some of the questions and things they need to do to make sure that they're going to help solve this impossible problem as quickly as possible?
Absolutely. So the first thing that I recommend is really honing in on what the merchant is requesting. Typically, when the call comes in, there's panic, there's frustration, there's excitement going on. The merchant really has a lot. There's typically a long story that goes involved in what happened, a power outage, a communication error, whatever it was. So you really need to identify what is the question. Are they missing tips? Did they batch out and they didn't receive the funds? Have they been processing and they haven't batched out yet? Like, really identify what are they needing. Once you can identify, okay, what are we looking for? Missing tips, missing transactions, missing funds, things like that. Then you can go on from the research. What really helps identify these items is making sure you understand the time frame in which the issue occurred. So getting dates and then amounts. Often the most common is I'm missing money, I'm missing funds. Okay, well, how much and when did this happen? So we can really get the details of what we're looking for in our research. So then we can expedite everything. And if something needs to be forced through or rekeyed, we can identify that really quickly and help get that funded and get the merchant happy, right? So.
And our goal is to make the merchant happy. Happy merchant is happy partner. Happy partner, we're all happy. We're doing good things here. Mike, when we've all, you guys a lot more than I'm like the last ditch, or a person's desperate and they get a hold of me. In fact, I remember the last time I was in Glenwood Springs, there was a a partner of ours that was so desperately looking for support that my phone number, I saw Danny was on the phone. And right then, my phone, I was sitting right next to Danny in his truck in Glenwood Springs. And it was a merchant or a partner calling about a merchant in a support line. And I'm like, you're calling the marketing director, but luckily I'm sitting next to a person that can actually get you some help. That doesn't happen all the time. You have to make a phone call or an email. But what is you get that panic phone call. Everything's going, it's worried. What are some of the things they can take a step back and doing that own documentation? How much research themselves? So they find out what the transaction number, they find out, when the batch was run, some of that, they're finding out the numbers. They do have access to some of those backends. Do you recommend they go and look at Payments Hub and look, like if they're running a Pay Anywhere, they can actually go into the device hub and see whether the Pay Anywhere is responding in the ways it should? How much research should they do ahead of time before they call one of their relationship managers to help getting that support?
You made the great distinction. If they have a Pay Anywhere terminal, those transactions are loading into Payments Hub in real time. So if you go to Payments Hub and you look and you're holding these 3 receipts and they're not there, yeah, you have a problem. And still, we're going to have to get customer service involved. Unfortunately, we as partner support folks don't have access to banking information and those things that our larger customer service team does, and that's what they do every day. And so, when you as an agent have to say, you know what, thank you for calling me, we're going to get to customer service right now because they're the ones that have access to this information. Even as a merchant, you don't necessarily see, okay, my bank deposit went in and things like that. We always are going to have to involve somebody at that other level where they can see the funds moving is the key that I always mention to the agent and the merchant.
What do you think are some of the things that help de-escalate the merchant? Because I think when the merchants panic, the partners panic, then it kind of goes, it's the domino effect. What are some of the things that a partner can say to help de-escalate that to the merchant as they start that? Jenny, are there things that they can affirm? What kind of, certainly they don't want to make guarantees this is going to be fixed in the next 10 minutes, but are there things they can say that you would expect that would help de-escalate the situation and provide confidence that's actually being dealt with?
For sure. The first thing that I always say is to go ahead and take ownership of, I'm going to work this and I'm going to help you. Something that's so frustrating, and I've experienced this myself when calling into a call center, is being passed around, getting different answers all the time, and just not being able to get on with my day, right? A business owner has much more things to worry about than their credit card processing. They have a lot going on. So take ownership, like, hey, Mr. Merchant, I know that this is going on. I don't have an answer right now, but I'm going to help you. Get all the information and then reach out to us. We're here to help. We have those channels, like Mike was saying, we can reach out and help determine what's going on. So really that reassurance, like, we have the support. You don't have to keep on calling into tech support. I'm here to help. Like, we have tech support and customer support for those smaller issues, but if something's really escalated and something the merchant is really anxious, and just really give them that reassurance that they're in good hands, we're here to help and we'll get the problem resolved.
So let's talk about the problems that happen at those unforeseen hours. The terminal crashes at 2 a.m. as it was batching out at a bar, or those worst case scenarios. But it's when we're not open as partner support. We run pretty traditional business hours, basically from 8 a.m. Eastern till 7 p.m. Eastern on every given business day. But that doesn't mean all the crisis doesn't happen at other times. Mike, when that happens, how do they, one, decide what things they need to do, and what are some of the game plans they can put together? If it's a technical support issue, they need to jump in and get in that technical queue right away, or no, this is something that's not even going to be able to be solved today on a Saturday night at 11 p.m. We're going to have to look at that on first thing Monday morning business hours. What are some things you'd suggest in those situations?
Well, I would suggest if there's any question for the merchant as to whether the terminal's working right or not, I would definitely call tech support. They are going to keep you from having to second guess and call frantically to your agent, because tech support is the one that can help you. And when you call there and you explain your situation, The only time they can't help you is if your terminal is broken and needs replaced. One of mine today, you know, I'm sorry, we're not able to fix it. We're going to overnight you a terminal. Um, and that's unfortunately what they could do. But at least you're getting that solution moving, even if it's at 1 in the morning when you're trying to close out your batch. One, that tech support person can get your batch closed out remotely. And two, that will keep your money moving and keep, your merchant happy. So encourage them to take advantage of that, because in the end, that's who's going to be able to help them.
Jenny, how often, like, we just sent out an email earlier today with some Pay Anywhere updates, and then there are some things that have happened in the background of this Pay Anywhere. There have been certain ones we had to pull an update back. And no matter how much testing teams do, you see this with Apple, the biggest of companies, every company, they had to pull some things back. When they're seeing something come on that they think is like this morning where these A920 Pros had some issues and only certain ones of them, do they jump to during business hours? Which is the best way? Jump to a relationship manager or right on the tech queue and get on technical support? Which is the best solution?
My recommendation would be to start with a tech queue for issues like that, just really because here at Relationship Managers, we do have limited access to file bills and things like that. So we really have some good channels for researching those escalated issues. But if somebody needs something quickly right away, that's what tech support is there for. They can make any updates, make any adjustments right there on the fly, get the merchant going, and they can be on their way without having to wait for us to do our research and get back to them. So for updates, quick technical issues, things like that, tech support is a great resource, and I really recommend just calling that line.
So, and Mike, I'll come back to you on this last question on this kind of topic.
Yep.
They're not the most fun things to talk about, but obviously we have a technical and customer support, but also you can email, text, our relationship managers and phone calls. How would you rate and when would you use each type of mode of communication, specifically with our relationship managers, and how would you scale that I know that's kind of a nebulous, but what kind of events would you use, phone or text versus email?
I think something like this morning that Jenny just gave an example of. Oh, okay, I would jump on that phone queue when I happen to have an agent who texted me. He said, "Hey, I've been on hold for like 20 minutes. Is something going on?" I said, "No, nothing that I know of." And then until a couple hours later, we did know what was happening. So in a way, I saved him a little bit of time. But I think if you need to know something and you want to find out as quick as you can, I would actually dial that whole queue at 844-334-9625. There are 6 to 8 of us on a daily basis that answer that phone. And if all you need to know is, hey, is something wrong with Pay Anywhere? Is something wrong with processing? There's an answer to be had there. As a side note, there's a section on the dashboard of partner.paymentshub.com up in the upper right hand corner that will show you if EPX is down. It will show you if Pay Anywhere is down. It will show you if our partner portal is down. It will give you lots of information. So if you have a question, that's where I started this morning. It wasn't down, so I went looking further for the solution. But I think when you are urgent, I would make that phone call. If, hey, I just need to ask Jenny a question, I'm going to call Jenny, and if she doesn't answer, I'll leave a message. I know that sometimes when I'm able, I'm going to text that partner and say, just so you know, I'm on a meeting right now. It's going to be almost another hour, but I'll give you a call then, or you're welcome to give the queue a call depending on what you need. So for things you need in a hurry, I would go with that telephone call that's going to ring all those different phones.
And we certainly hope that we don't have downtime, but if you suspect at all that it's some type of outage service, or you may see it sometimes, how I sometimes know, you see an AWS, Amazon Web Services outage, it could very likely be affecting a lot of our backend. Are running on a lot of things on AWS. We have several others on Azure run by Microsoft. So you start seeing that, then you may want to go and check that. Is it up? Statements, go to Payments Hub, go see whether they're up. And that's a quick answer to your thing. It's not a great solution because we just got to wait, but it happens to all of us. And I always use some of our competitors, we will have a downtime. We're going to, but all of our competitors will too. And I have a list in my head of all of our competitors and when they've gone down, realizing that it's apples to apples. I never use it as, hey, it won't happen to us, but I do make sure they know it happens to all of us. And, I always think the worst case scenario, there's one of our competitors, in fact, we can technically board deals on them, starts with the T, ends with an S. There's only 4 letters. You can figure that out. They opened the first largest live event at the wrestling event, whatever, I always forget, in Las Vegas, 75,000 people. They're running only on that particular company, and that company has a complete outage for 6 hours and can't process anything. And it was like they had a no cash policy within the stadium there in Las Vegas and couldn't serve food or drinks for that whole event. I think it was called SummerSlam last summer. That wasn't you, because that was a headache. Now it might happen to us too. So coming back, Jenny and Mike, last comments to our partners, how to solve the impossible. Any comments or things that you would suggest as we close up? Who's first?
Ladies first.
Jenny, you got anything?
Yep, I would say just make sure to get those details and really tacking on to what Mike said, call us. If you ever have any issues where you can't get in tech support or somebody's really frantic, we're here to help. So please don't hesitate to reach out, and you got this.
Got it.
I know it's hard when this person is very likely screaming at you and crying or any of the above emotions. Stop and get as many facts as you can, or you're going to be calling him back anyway. We need as much specific information about whatever's happening to solve the problem. So stop, take some time, get some facts.
That's how it rolls. On that, I will say thank you guys for watching Office Hours. We'll be back next week. If you have ideas or things you want us to talk about, email me at nmanahan@papertech.com. Thank you guys so much. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Jenny. And we will see you next week.
Thanks, Nate. Bye. See you, Jenny. Have a good weekend.